Here, everybody's happy.
Yes.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the Thursday, July 1st Committee Meeting of the Whole Administrative Committee, 6:04 PM. With roll call. Carl Johnson here. Jerry Gieske. Jonathan Van Laar.
Here.
Dave Wiltsey.
Here.
Ray Larson. Hands. Okay. Steve Schabacher.
Here.
Jeff Carlisle.
Here.
Ryan Curry. Bill Robertson.
Here.
Sherry Bartell.
Here,
Rodney Riley.
Here.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Here.
Motion carries. Motion carries. Jeez. It's just habit.
We're all here.
Next up, I'd accept a motion to approve the June 10th finance meeting minutes.
I would approve that.
Motion by Mr. Carlisle, seconded by Mr. Van Laar. Thank you, sir. Any questions, comments, queries? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, I accept a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Carlisle.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Schabacher. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any public comment? Sheriff, you want to grace us or? Oh, okay. Well, remember you said that in a couple moments. Seeing no public comment, Mr. Curry, the floor is yours.
All righty. Moving to 6.1, public safety. Sheriff?
I actually will be brief.
Thank you.
Just give you a couple updates. We had a pretty average month for the month of June. Our biggest things that we dealt with, we had a lot of serious accidents. For some reason, they come in clusters, and last couple months have been pretty serious with not only property damage, but a lot of serious injuries. We did not have any fatalities this month, but unfortunately, we still have 2 or 3 that could end up being fatalities. Accidents were. The other thing, we're still having a big problem with thefts of trailers. You know, we try to get that out there in the public during these meetings. It's just, we're encouraging people to lock up their trailers, buy something for the tongue of your trailer so they don't get stolen. But we've had quite a few of those throughout the county. We've recovered some. We recovered some up in Wisconsin. We recovered some over in Rockford, but it seems to be a pretty standard. People just leave their trailers out, and it's unfortunate that you really can't do that. So that's something that we just want to make people aware of. The only thing with the budget, as always, is just kind of give you a monthly update. Our budget's absolutely fine. The only thing that always concerns us is the overtime budget, but we're doing really good across the board for the most part. Patrol, we're 17 under budget, but we do have the fair coming up, and that does eat a lot of that up. So that's not a concern. Dispatch, almost 10,000 over budget, but still not that much of a concern at this point of the year. Correction has always been, because we're 4 guys down, it's been a big issue for us. We're $70,000 over budget, which sounds like a lot, which it is. 39% over budget. So we're going to go way over budget on that. But again, as I remind, when the numbers come in, our bottom line will be fine because we're down so many people. That comes out of the wages. So it's really kind of a wash. We're about 106 under budget on the wages. So just when you see those numbers come up, it's really not that critical. The biggest point, we're in the process. Biggest problem has been getting people into the academies. We're going to be sending 2 for corrections to the academy at the end of this month, and hopefully 2 more in October. So that should relieve, although it sounds like, well, we're 106 under budget for the wages. Why don't we just keep paying overtime to people? Problem is we have our corrections people, which is a tough job to begin with, working all the time. So we can't have people constantly working. They got to get some days to decompress. So we will be, hopefully, we have some candidates that we're pretty happy with. So we'll be sending them through. July 1st is the big Police Reform Act that we've been talking about for the last 8 or 9 months. That started today. This is an absolute huge bill. As you remember, we talked about this like several months ago, where this was signed in the middle of the night. But I will tell you, all the legislators did for this bill is really just push most of the stuff off. All the crazy things that were in this bill, and that's my opinion, of course, most of that stuff has been fixed. So I'm not really that concerned about the majority of the stuff that started today. The legislators only dealt with this trailer bill, only dealt with the things that become effective July 1st. So there are still some pretty serious, critical things that happen in the future, but they've kind of kicked that can down the road, and we're not going to talk about that stuff. We're just going to deal with the stuff that was July 1st. Realistically, the changes for the July 1st, it really doesn't concern me that much. A lot of it is common sense, render aid, duty to intervene. That's common sense. This is what we do anyway. Body cameras, they fixed a lot of the language. We're really happy. There has to be some changes, which we're good with. But there was just a lot of crazy things in this bill. Still a lot of crazy things in the bill that we're going to be dealing with in the next several months to hopefully resolve a lot of that language that is in that law. Police use of force, it is, again, it's pretty common sense. My biggest fear, because of all the talk about this police reform bill, is really, my fear is officers hesitating, because there's been so many changes and so many rumors of what it was going to be and what it is. The governor literally just signed this on Friday. So that's my biggest fear, is guys worried that, they're going to go to prison forever if they make, a mistake in that split second. And I think the law protects us in a lot of that, but it's still that hesitation. We're going to get officers injured or killed throughout the state. Other than that, with that, there's just a lot of reporting, a lot of monthly reporting, a lot more administrative stuff that has to happen. I would tell you one good thing, and we talked about this several months ago. Remember when I said, somebody's trespassing on their land, we show up, we give them a ticket, and they would say, there's nothing else we can do. The legislators, although it doesn't become effective until January, they separated the resisting and obstructing, which is fantastic. It should have been done when they originally made the law, a long time ago. So now we're going to be able to, we'll still write a citation to that person, but then we're going to ask them to leave. You got to leave this property. And if you don't leave it, now it's obstructing. So we are going to have a little bit more, they changed some of that stuff. So it's, we need citizens call. We need to be able to do something other than just write them a ticket. And all we're asking for is compliance. You leave, great. If you don't leave, then you're going to go to jail. So that's something that we're pretty happy with. So there'll be a lot of talk on this in the coming weeks. We're still dissecting. There's so much to dissect and interpret with this. We're relying on our state's attorney's office, in addition to other attorneys throughout the state, just to kind of get this down. And quite frankly, most of these changes, we're going to be dealing with this for years, because it's going to go to court, and there's going to be appeals, and there's going to be a lot of interpretation through the court system and the Supreme Court, that it's going to be a while. So it's not as bad as what everybody thought from the beginning, because we were able to get a lot of that language changed. The corrections, we still continue to house state prisoners. Again, why, I don't know. We need to ship these people to prison. Right now, we have 23 prisoners that are waiting to be shipped off, which is a lot for a county our size. So constantly calling them. We are shipping off 10 prisoners next week, which is absolutely huge for us. But again, they're just so far behind, and it's really kind of sad, quite frankly, because the bill gets sent to the local taxpayers, and we're the ones footing the bill for their prisoners. It's really not once they're sentenced, it's not our responsibility. In a couple of weeks, we're starting our electronic monitoring. We no longer have work release. I think I may have touched on that before, but now the low level, non-violent criminals, instead of work release, they're going to be put on a bracelet. So they'll actually be monitored 24/7. This is actually a whole lot better than our work release was before. Quite frankly, we had a work release program, but we don't have the staff to actually follow up and see where they're at all the time, or if they even go to work. So this is going to actually be a lot better on both ends. Plus, the low level stuff, they get to sleep in their own bed. We want people to keep their jobs, especially at the low level that messed up. So they're basically going to be prisoners of their own in their own home, but we're going to monitor them. So there's going to be places they can and can't go to, curfews, things like that. So that's really going to be the way of the future anyway. So I think we're going to be kind of ahead of the game in that. There's actually not many places in Illinois that's even started this program yet. So we're pretty happy with it. And lastly, we hired a new IT guy. As you recalled, we lost an IT guy a couple months ago. This guy really, he looks and acts just like the old guy, Josh Robinson, because he actually came back to us. So we're very happy with that because he's an awesome IT guy and fits in real good with our group. So with that being said, I would open it up if anybody has any questions or concerns. I'll do my best to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions for the sheriff in the boardroom?
Quick one. Dave, are the trailers, are they covered trailers is what they're looking for instead of the open ones?
All the above.
All of them? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Riley?
Dave, I know we've talked about this before with the jail, with the state prisoners. I know it's our tax money, but are we sending the state a bill? Are we keeping track of what they might owe us for housing those guys all the time? Or is that something we're even looking at?
No, we've, because it's not only the housing costs, but it's also all the medical that we get stuck paying for. So we've tracked that since last March. Every dime that's been spent. The state budget was passed here last month, I think, and there was about $25 million, I think, allocated for reimbursement to counties. So we're not sure how that's going to be divvied up. Chicago will probably get 24.5 million of that, but the rest of that we're hoping is going to be split up amongst other counties. So we are hoping we're probably at that $250,000 mark for actually costs that we would bill the state. So we are actually hoping for that reimbursement. We've worked closely with the Sheriff's Association. All the 102 sheriffs in the state have the same issue. So we've been dealing with Department of Corrections very painfully for the last year and a half.
Okay,
So
thanks.
we are getting there.
Yeah.
I believe we will get reimbursed something.
Any other questions for the sheriff in the boardroom? Do we have any online? No.
All right, very good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, moving along to 6.2 Highway Department. Justin on the phone.
I think Justin's out of town. I'm not sure.
Okay. All right, then we'll move along to 7, quarterly department presentation, 7.1. Admin?
Yes, thank you. This evening I'll be brief as well. Just a couple of things that we've been working on, the budget. So we've sent out budget worksheets to departments, and those are expected to be completed by July 19th to where, at which point we'll meet with those departments and come up with recommendations to present in August to the county board at the finance committee meetings. And so we'll engage the department heads and the county board on the budget process then and work our way through that for final adoption. Just to highlight some things in HR, we'll be having hosting some upcoming wellness events, educational events on July 20th, blood pressure, in August on diabetes, and in September on nutrition. So those will be made available to employees. Another item to touch on is Maple Crest. We've been working with the management there on an outdoor project for residential entertainment. Ken Terranoni had received a grant back, I believe it was 2018 or 2019, for $5,000. So we've been working with the landscape architect to give them something outdoors where they can enjoy the outdoors. So looking at some sort of a water feature and some outdoor seating. And then lastly, as you know, the board approved PVC well installation for the landfill. So the landfill consultants, TRC, they're working on that. And with EPA to solicit bids for those replacements, and happy to take any questions.
Any questions for admin in the boardroom? Go ahead, Jeff.
Kevin, the county has two large funds for Maple Crest that are set up for, these type of functions, things. And I would like to see if we do something for Maple Crest even before we sell it. If we do sell it, I'd like to see us do something functional for them. That would also enhance the facility, which we could also ask for additional funds.
Okay, yeah, wonderful. And I know, so Renee is their facility administrator there, and I think you've worked with her too. And they've been trying to come up with some ideas on more residential entertainment too. And I'm just kind of waiting on their proposal, but we can start to engage them on some strategies for that too.
Wonderful, thank
No
you.
problem.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. Of course, everybody knows I'm new. You said you have two funds for the account out there. Do we know,
Free.
all three?
Great, yeah.
Again, I don't always know what I'm talking about, but do we know what the balance is, or in the past, what did they use those funds for? Or?
Yes, so we do have the balances. I don't have them in front of me tonight. However, the uses, two of them are for residential entertainment, and then one is for staff education, like professional development, essentially. So,
Yeah.
and the staff educational development, I believe that has the least amount of funds. I think Dan can back me up on some of this real quick.
I was just gonna, I pulled up, it's on the treasurer's monthly report. So there's the Gibson Memorial, the balance as of last month was 108,000 and change. The Schnell Memorial, which is 24,000 and change. And then Wolfram is the final, and that's 11,000.
Okay. But now are those, each one of those funds, are they designated to a special use, if I can, that's the right word, and not just, so the funds that we, the 108, would that be for, like I said, correct me here if I'm wrong, like entertainment or doing something for the folks that are out there? And like Jeff said, maybe something we do to that building to make it more appealing, especially the possibility of not having it. Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, yep.
Any other questions, Mr. Riley?
Just real quick, Kevin, I noticed at the bottom of your report here under the FOIA, it looks like we had one here for 295 pages. As a former FOIA officer, I'm just wondering, did we charge anything extra for that, I wonder?
No, so only in the case if I believe is if we print it, but I believe this was just a digital copy. Yeah, so we don't charge anything.
Okay, all right, very good. All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Kevin? All right. Moving right along, 7.2, building. Drew, you on the phone?
I'm here.
The floor is yours, sir.
Okay. As you can see, we're still issuing a lot of permits and consequently doing a lot of inspections. One update to the quarterly report, June report I had to do earlier in the week, so it wasn't completely updated. Number of permits, 69. Fees are up to about 29,000. The online permitting is going very well. It's made our processes very efficient, both in the office and out in the field. So we're thrilled with that. Any questions?
Any questions for Drew? Mr. Schabacher?
Yeah, Drew, are you able to keep up with inspections? Now, these permits, are they for structures? Most of them are like homes or garages or?
Your first question. Yeah, I'm able to keep up with the inspections. People are not having to wait more than a day, maybe two, for an inspection. And as far as the types of permits we're issuing, you name it. As you can see in my report, we issued 16 new home permits last quarter.
Okay, because I know, like I said, just from my past experience, when they want to pour concrete, it's pretty important that you have the ability to get there and check it out, because otherwise it can cause some issues for you. So you're doing okay now, keeping up with inspections on the calls for, like say, pouring concrete, which they want to do immediately. And that's just what I wanted to check to see if you're doing okay with it.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
The only time there's an issue is when maybe someone didn't plan ahead and call and want an inspection, that morning, and I'm not available. It's just,
That's true.
it's what happens.
Hey, well, thanks, Drew.
Sure.
Any other questions for Mr. Bliss? Go ahead.
Hi, Drew, it's Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Quick question. Everybody knows that we have a 2-year review coming up on permits and information and that stuff. Is this new software able to give out reports to those type of avenues that we're looking at? Because we're looking at new businesses, not just new homes, but we're looking at new businesses, any type of development, similar to some reports I used to give you. But are you able to do that? Because we definitely got to track that for this 2-year moratorium we put on permits.
Yes, it will track different types of permits. I will say the the reporting portion of cloud permit, we're still trying to fine tune that. We've come a long way. It's not quite where I want it, but we'll get there.
Okay.
You have follow-up, Jeff?
Now, I'll call him.
All right. Anybody else in the boardroom have a question for Mr. Bliss? All right, that's it, Drew. Thank you.
Thank you.
7.3 GIS. Tammy, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me? Yes, I am.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I only have a couple of things. I was told last week that the aerials that were flown in April, our pilot area should be sent to us in a couple of weeks, which is actually pretty good and sooner than we thought. If anyone wants to know what pilot area is, they send you a little area of what they've flown to make certain that we like it before they start converting them into what we need. So that's a good thing. I don't know. I've been working with Trisha slowly. We're starting on this reapportionment thing. I'm working with her to try to make some maps and get the population down for the county board precincts as best as I can. And I'm also hoping to get a new updated plat book for the county by the fair time. So if people are wanting plat books, I'm hoping they want to come buy some. That's about it.
Any questions for Tammy in the boardroom? All right, Tammy, thank you.
You're welcome.
7.4, Izzy.
Good evening. So I did include a report if there are any questions on that, but the summary that I have for you for this quarter, planning has been working on various applications. As you saw, text amendments, special uses, we continue to work with those as they come. But I have also been working with the Lot of Record Ad Hoc Committee meeting. And currently we are discussing amendments to the A2 Agricultural Residential District. If you follow it at all, we do have a meeting next week scheduled July 6th at 4 p.m. if you're interested. Planning is also working on various initiatives with other agencies, including electric vehicles with R1PC, the Hunger Coalition with the Health Department, as well as the Enterprise Zone with Growth Dimensions and the state and the county. So if there's any questions, I can take those.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, on that, I was trying to write here as quick as I could. July 6th at 4 o'clock. That's
Yes.
about the lot of record.
That's right.
And will that be here in this room? All right, yeah. Thanks, Izzy.
Yeah.
It's actually, it's been a pretty effective committee. I mean, I think we're all learning a lot. And on top of that, you're coming forth to make some really good changes. I think that'll benefit everybody. But
I had some questions from Mr. Irwin, a little bit about that. Did he contact you? It'd be Randall Irwin?
Yes, yes, he was actually attending last meeting. And he submitted some things that are on the agenda now, if you check out board docs, and I think he's planning on being there next week.
All right, yeah, thanks, Izzy.
Yep.
anybody else have any questions for Izzy? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, written monthly departmental reports and updates. Does anybody have anything there? I hear nothing. I got my computers acting up here. New business. 9.1. I'd like a motion to approve claims with the understanding that Carl Johnson abstains from voting on all claims presented by William Charles and Bill Robertson abstains from voting on all claims presented by B. Robertson Lock Service.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made by Jeff Carlisle, seconded by Steve Schabacher. Discussion? Roll call, please.
We can do a voice vote on that.
Okay.
Committee.
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. 9.2, Big Thunder Park Playground Improvements. Dan, I think you have the wheel.
So at the June 3rd meeting, we received direction from the committee of the whole to move.
To make that motion first.
Sorry.
Do we do discussion?
No, you can do discussion. It doesn't matter. That's fine. He's already started, so.
Pursuing immediate improvements with the goal of reopening the playground as quickly as possible. And so what we did was put together a project cost estimate based on what needs to be done out at the playground. There's a memo on board docs that kind of lays out what those different components are that we would need to do. So the first two items on there, we'll be working with New Toys. New Toys is the manufacturer's representative. That playground was built by Landscape Structures out of Minnesota, which is probably, it's a very common playground installer. Most of the playgrounds you see in this area were built by Landscape Structures. New Toys is their sales rep for our area. And so there are two components currently that are missing at the playground. One of them being a tire swing, the second being a chain ladder. And so we obtained a quote from New Toys to replace those two items. Also from New Toys would be an edging border. So the edging border would be, you see them at, the school district uses them, the park district uses them at some of their parks, but it's essentially a border that would keep in the playground mulch, just so that it doesn't get tracked through the park, something to hold it into that area. So it's called Tough Timbers edging border. We obtained a quote for that. New Toys got us a quote. They work with a company called Service Management out of suburbs that they are a playground installer. So they do new playgrounds and also do repairs across this region. And this quote for $3,500 would include, it's a prevailing wage quote to do the professional installation of those components as well as that edging border. And then we obtained a couple quotes for the playground material. The best price that we got was from Bill Miller Logging. That was a company that was recommended to us actually by the Belvedere Park District. So it would be approximately 150 cubic yards of their certified playground mulch for $31.98. And just you'll see in the note below there, but that material, they test it so it meets the requirements for the head impact testing, and then also the wheelchair accessibility testing, which is important for playgrounds. And then finally, we knowing that once they get in there and start installing these components, there could be some items that were missed, or maybe some things that we need to do that we didn't take into account. And so we added just a 20% project contingency on there. And so what we would recommend tonight would be, I guess, asking for a motion. Our thought was not to exceed that total, so $16,643, which would at least allow us to then get those going and work towards getting that playground reopened for the community.
Should we do motion now?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Carl Johnson, seconded by Jonathan Van Laar. We can discuss. Go ahead, Mr. Shabakar.
Yeah, is there a time frame that we've considered when to get that done? Would be possible if this passes, they'd have that completed?
Yeah, it sounds like, talking to Mr. Kevin Driscoll from New Toys, the replacement components, ordering those would be 4 to 5 weeks. So I think we'd be able to do it. My hope would be before Labor Day.
The reason I say, I know a lot of us have had trouble getting materials. I have too, for projects. So I just wondered, what their guesstimation was. So, all right.
Yeah, knock on wood, that I haven't heard that would be an issue for this. I think we'd be able to do it
All right.
this summer. So,
Thank you.
yep.
It's my recollection that in this discussion we had on this before, we were going to ask the Park District what they thought about the whole facility. Did they give us any sort of feedback on that? It was both in terms of whether it was cost effective to repair it and whether they had any other advice for us.
I could probably take that if you want, Dan. The Park District's in a considerable amount of turmoil right now. They've terminated several employees or they've parted ways with employees, I should say. Some left on their own, some were asked to not come back to work. So I think it's best we just get this park back up and running for the kids that use it.
Okay, then, sorry to hear about that, obviously. With respect to the next 5 weeks or so until we get the materials, is the park closed?
The playground equipment's closed. That's what the park itself is open. Just
yeah, the playground equipment and access is still closed. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Dan.
I was just gonna, Mr. Wiltsey, Mr. Driscoll from New Toys, he is an inspector. And so when we spoke with him, he did make it clear that he feels like once we get the material down, the fall surface, and then also once we get those missing components replaced, that he felt like the bones of the playground were in okay shape. So it's just kind of a matter of doing this, repair, and it won't last forever, but we'll get some years out of it.
Thank you.
I have a question for you, Dan. There is special mulch that needs to be used? Might be a stupid question, but I'm in awe.
Yeah, it's wood mulch. You probably, it would, I mean, to the naked eye, to all of us would probably just think it was wood mulch, but it's engineered to be of a certain consistency. It has to do with the wheelchair accessibility and also that the head impact. So they'll do testing like from a 12-foot or 13-foot, 14-foot, what a kid could fall from. And then they do that impact testing to make sure that these surfaces pass that test. And there's also with the playground mulch too, and you see it a lot now, talk about timber playground structures. So the old school wood playgrounds, you don't see those anymore. And a lot of park districts and schools are going away from those quickly. It has to do also with some of the chemicals and that they use not only in the mulch, but also in some of those old timber products. So the playground wood mulch is a specific product that's specifically engineered for playgrounds.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions before we'll go ahead, Carl?
I just got one comment. Dan, I'm really disappointed. I looked at the photos and you weren't going down a slide, you weren't swinging, I was kind of.
I also have a couple kids that are here for that fall test. Probably inappropriate. All right, that being said, any more questions in the boardroom? We can go ahead and take roll call.
You can do voice vote. We're in kind of committee. Yeah, committee we can do voice votes.
Okay.
The board meeting when we're actually approving it officially, we have to do.
I like that. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving along to 9.3, discussion of social media policy. Board members memo, right? Board members memo. And Carla, I think you have the floor on that.
I do, thanks. So there had been a social media policy that Mr. Carlisle had found and modified, and it was sent to our office to review. And after we reviewed the policy, Tricia and I thought it appropriate to come back to the board and have kind of a discussion here to sort of flesh out what you're looking for in a social media policy. And the first thing you want to consider is who you want your social media policy to apply to. The origins of the social media policy that provided by Mr. Carlisle, it comes from NIU, and it is applicable to NIU's employees posting on NIU's social media sites. So just like the county, the College of Business at NIU has a Facebook page, and the College of Nursing has a Facebook page, et cetera, et cetera. And these were guidelines that were created in order to give employees guidelines as to how they're expected to post and behave on those pages. So that's one possible direction you could go with a social media policy. The county has Facebook pages, Animal Service has a Facebook page, the sheriff has a Facebook page, state's attorney has a Facebook page. You could give guideline and direction to employees when they are posting in their official capacity to the county Facebook pages. With respect to conduct of employees on their own personal time, posting to social media, with very few exceptions, you can't regulate that. And I don't think anyone was intending that you regulate what employees do on their personal time with respect to their own thoughts and opinions on social media. The second sort of group of people you could draft a social media policy to regulate would be conduct of the public on county social media pages. You cannot regulate that very much. You can, administrators of pages can remove threats, they can remove obscenity. You have to be a little careful there, but they can remove spam, they can remove harassing comments, but generally speaking, the public can say pretty much what they want on the county's Facebook pages. They can post criticisms of the state's attorney's office on the state's attorney's office page. We cannot remove that. It's a First Amendment violation. The public pretty much has the right to say what they want to state actors, with the exception of those kind of small threats, harassment, et cetera. So then the third category of people that you may or may not want to try to regulate their behavior would be your own conduct of board members. And this is something, there's your conduct of board members in your official capacity, and then there's your conduct as just private citizens on social media. Generally speaking, cannot impose consequences for board members' behavior, either as public officials or on your own time. You have the First Amendment right to be critical of each other, of other people, you have the right pretty much to say what you want to on social media, Facebook, Twitter. Again, with kind of the narrow exception of harassment, obscenity, but it would be those sites regulating that as opposed to the board. You could choose to adopt sort of a board norms resolution or board conduct resolution, where you would agree sort of to collectively abide by board norms or guidelines or code of conduct that you guys would come up with. You cannot impose consequences for that. currently before the US Supreme Court is a case where the US Supreme Court is deciding whether a censure is a consequence or not. So, say one of you gets on Facebook and just goes off, rants, cussing and swearing, and generally making an embarrassment of yourself. The board could discuss that. The board could ignore it. The board can't impose consequences for it, with the possible exception of censure, but the Supreme Court is deciding right now whether or not you can even censure for that, whether a censure is considered a consequence or not. There's a split in the circuits on that. So any questions about any of that? What I'm looking for is for you guys to have a discussion about what you think is necessary, what you think is advisable, and then we can do what you want.
Mr. Chairman? Thank you, sir. Thanks, Carla, for that information. From my standpoint, I don't think it's a bad thing if we wanted to come up with some sort of regulation policy give employees guidelines as to if they're posting on the websites in their official capacities. I don't think that's a bad thing to do something like that. With the rest of it, with trying to regulate board members or what people would do on their own, I'm opposed to doing that. Whether I like or dislike posts that board members put on websites, I would rather continue to encourage our board members to understand that in your capacity, negative comments that you put out there regarding this body or the county in general or cities in this community do have an effect on suitors who are looking to make Boone County, Belvedere, Capron, Poplar Grove, Timber Lane a place to put a business. And it's our job not to ignore issues, but we don't necessarily have to blast them from the top of the Empire State Building either. We work hard to make this a great place to live. I think it's a great place to live. I think it's a great place to start a business, to have a business. And I think we're in a time period where we're going to grow. We're going to get businesses, but there's no sense trying to shoot ourselves in the foot either. There's going to be negatives to everything, but I truly believe the positives in this community outweigh the negatives by a heavy, heavy margin. So that's my 2 cents. Good.
Council, you indicated that, I didn't realize this, but I don't follow the Supreme Court docket that closely either. So is this case briefed this year? It's on the docket this year?
I believe it is, let me look, I printed out.
Has it been argued yet?
This is Tricia.
Hi.
I was going to say I had the answer to that. It has been, they're allowing amicus briefs right now to be filed. It looks like that order came in to allow them to file it on like the end of June. So it's my belief it's going to be argued in the fall.
Okay. You had indicated that there was a split in the circuits. What's the Seventh Circuit done, or have they weighed in on this?
I don't know that the Seventh Circuit Tricia's had her son's baseball game. I don't know.
I believe it was.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I don't believe the Seventh Circuit has weighed in. I believe it was maybe the 5th.
I think the 5th and the 9th.
5th and the 9th?
Yep.
All right, turning to a general comment about the proposed language. I certainly recommend to my colleagues that we await the Supreme Court's decision before we should consider putting in language like proposed in Section 3 on enforcement, which would allow us to censure someone. I mean, that's exactly what the issue is apparently before the Supreme Court. And I also just want to say that if you look at that language closely, it says the county board intends to hold county board members accountable for their actions on social media. I think if we were going to do something like it, it'd be far better to say a board member should observe the policy established by, instead of making us an aggressive prosecutor almost, if you will, of that. It's almost if it's threatening language. But with knowing that that's docketed, I would recommend that we not act upon that issue. And I would also suggest to my colleagues, I don't know, I went on and read the second of the two policies that were mentioned in the back of the draft. And this was a JD Serpa LLC practical pointers. It's an eye opener because he indicates that this can be a real pitfall for any social government to get into, unit of government to get into. It could be expensive. You may have to assign staff members to monitor the situation. As the chairman was saying, it's one thing for us to talk about, employees in the building as distinguished from employees that are county board members and try to do something with the conduct. But I would really request that everyone take a look at that social media guidelines for public officials and the people who advise them that was attached to those materials. And based upon that, I have some significant concerns and would not want to go forward at this point.
Thank you, Dave. Any other discussion? Go ahead.
Yeah. The initial one was, sometimes when you want to get everybody's eyes opened up, you put everything on a piece of paper and you look at details. Some of them are wild, some of them are right on, some of them are going, how are we going to do that? So with that, what you have in front of you or had in front of you that was submitted through Kevin and given to our attorneys, what I'd like you to do is circle what you like, and it gives them an idea. And then, yes, I agree with David in waiting for what the Supreme Court would say, but they will have something they could look at and say, if you circle something that you like or find it plausible, if possible, feasible, that will give them some type of guideline to start with. We all have this piece of paper. You can scan it, two of them, if you like, and write additional comments on it. But at least they'll have something from every one of our board members to at least gauge where they would, we would like to go. They could look at it, and then we could also wait for the consequences coming out of the Supreme Court for that decision. And then we can go further with that. As long as we give our state's attorney's office something to work on initially, we can do that. And then we can break it down to those specific items instead of going full board on everything. To regulate is going to be difficult. I agree. But there's enough there that we could probably give our state's attorney something to start pulling information on and setting something up, and then waiting for our government to finish the Supreme Court's decisions. My opinion.
Any other discussion? Go ahead, Rodney.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback off of what Mr. Chairman said, because you spent some time talking to us. I believe it was either the March or the April meeting. And personally, I took that to heart. I totally, I really think we need to look at this collectively as board members. We need to look at it as, what is the public seeing? What are we saying in the public that they can read and that they can take back to, like you say, their business or their community, whatever, about the way that we act here on this board? I think we should hold ourselves to a higher standard. I think some of the stuff that the assistant state's attorney was talking about with employees and stuff, I think that might be more governed towards individual departments and how they handle their social media policies. I know where I work, we have one. But I think with what you said before and at the meeting before, that it is a big deal. These people are looking at us, and it wouldn't surprise me a bit if they're Googling any one of us, if they are searching our social media policies or our social media traffic, if you were. It's one of those deals again where when I was working, if I had $1 for every social media complaint I took, I could have retired 10 years ago. So I think it's huge. I think since you made your last statement at the meeting in April or March or April, I do think some of it's still going on. What people need to understand is is when you put stuff out, it reflects on you, it reflects on all of us as a board. And just because you change your mind and you take it away doesn't mean that somebody still doesn't have record of it, because it's out there. Once you are at home and you're upset and your thumbs are going like this and you hit send or post, it's out there. And you just don't know where or who is picking it up. So I agree with you 100%. And I hope we do work something out to where we have, if nothing else, just a gentleman's agreement with the board that we do not attack each other, that we do not attack political issues and leave that up to the voters. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
Go ahead, Freddie.
Yeah, I would just a general advice, just for county board members not to respond to comments or, because a lot of people online are just trolls. So, they're just looking to get under people's skin, especially somebody that's like a public official or a county board member. So hey, I got under his skin. I'm going to post it on Facebook or something. So I think I would just, advise us not to go there and to just be aware that people look at us. So.
Go ahead, Sherry.
Let me say this loud and clear. I know that I do receive probably a lot more calls, messages, or whatever than some of the rest of the people on this board. Well, I cannot tell you how many times I get a call or a text message with a snapshot of something that somebody has said, maybe within the Boone County organization, if you want to call it that. And these people do have the snapshots. They do have the whatever was said above it to go along with it. And then I am supposed to try to explain away why this person did it. My answer of lately has been, go talk to them. Because I can't answer the question as to why somebody did something on somebody else's page. I think when we do this, you should think before you do it. And if you have anything to say, make sure whatever you have to say is factual and not something that somebody else has just said and you're jumping on the bandwagon and spreading the untruth. We should always, as people of this board or working for Boone County, tell the truth and be factual about it. And if you don't know the answer, admit you do not know the answer. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Sherry. Anybody else in the boardroom? All right.
So I think what I'm hearing from you right now is maybe it wouldn't be a terrible idea to have a social media policy that's sort of broad and just encompasses employee, county employee, departmental Facebook pages, just some kind of guidelines with respect to that. And then we're going to hold off on any sort of board member agreement or code of conduct until we hear from the Supreme Court. And then if you guys want to act further at that time, we'll have a discussion then. Would that be accurate?
Is there a way to maybe extend this to our general area so it would affect city council, county board, and the surrounding? It'd only be us.
We only have jurisdiction over county.
We can't work together with them to come up with something?
We can ask, but it would entirely be up to the city council, whether it be Belvedere, Capron, Poplar Grove, Timber Lane. I mean, they're their own bodies, their own rules. We can say, hey, we did this, but no.
Okay.
We have control over county stuff. That's it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. 9.4 raffles, I think, check the rest of them on your desk.
Yeah, I'll sign them, yep.
Moving on to number.
Brian,
Yes.
I have one more thing to say about that.
Go ahead.
I think as people here in the county board, when and where and what we make a comment on is a reflection of we as a person, or you as a person, or I as a person. And if you make a comment, sometimes personal self-worth comes out. Sometimes in comments that are made, we best look within before we make them. And if you make a comment on something that is like joining the bandwagon, just remember, whatever you say is a reflection on what this county is. And I'm going to agree with Carl, which is a rarity. I'm going to agree with Carl that whatever we put out there is a reflection on this county, on whether somebody wants to come in here and open a business or not. I had the opportunity to talk to someone just this past week who actually moved here from the Crystal Lake area. And also the fact that they still have relatives in that area. And also that Crystal Lake is is on a suffering point right now because of something that somebody had said. On top of that, right next to Crystal Lake, we have another community, which I can't remember, it's on the interstate. They are growing like you would not believe. And there are a lot of businesses looking to move to communities along the interstate. And they are looking at everything we say and everything we do. And if we don't actually stop and think about that, maybe we as people who make comments on something could be damaging the county more than what we realize.
Thank you. Anybody else before we move on? All right. Thank you, Carl. All right. 10, landfill, we have nothing. 11, informational items and other business, reapportionment discussion. We
got to go back and approve the raffles, do we not?
I don't think we.
No, we don't approve the raffles. They just get signed. They're just on there. Yeah, they just get signed.
Thank you.
Yep.
So in reapportionment, we just wanted to say that there's 2 special county board meetings on that, and on the agenda for the 14th, it'll be 2 agenda items or 2 potential motions. 1 to decide how the chairman is elected, and then 2 decide if the county board wants to use the 2019 ACS census data or the 2020 census data. So those will be the 2 items that we'll discuss on the 14th and on the 21st. If we come to conclusion on the 14th, and we won't hold the 21st meeting, but nonetheless, we have both just in case.
Go ahead, Mr. Schubacher.
Sometimes I get my numbers off. On the 14th and 21st, was that when we were going to come in early at 15 minutes early?
No, actually, so that, that's a good question. That one is, so that one's next week, and that's for the adjourned board meeting that for last month. So that'll be for the 8th, so we'll start at about 5:50.
I got you. Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
Don't be late.
No problem for you. Thanks again.
We come in earlier. July.
Yeah. Any other questions before we move on? All right, 11.2 correspondence.
Yeah.
Want to take that one as well?
Yeah, there's this one item in there. City of Belvedere is a letter. We just attached it. They notified us that they'll be applying biosolids to agricultural land located in Boone County. So they put the parcel number for it.
Any discussion on that? 11.3 UCCI advocacy groups. Anybody? 11.4 chairman's favorite portion. 11 board member comments. Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
I just want to let the board know, we were hoping to be able to have a executive session to talk about this so I can give you more details, but we can't figure out yet how we could do it in executive session. So we've got staff working on that, but at some point you'll get some more details on this, but I wanted to let board members know that the city of Belvedere is working very closely with a company on a very substantial project that will bring some development to the community. And obviously they're competing against other places for this project. So they put together some incentives for that project. They approached county and asked if there was anything we could do to help sweeten the pot, so to speak. So we got together with staff and came up with a potential proposal that we thought was a realistic scenario that we could propose to help incentivize this project. We're hoping to hear that the project's a go in our county in the next week or two. It is, when I say it's a substantial project, it's substantial. And it would be a real nice get for Boone County and Belvedere. Not as many jobs as we would like. It certainly wouldn't supplant Chrysler by any means, but certainly it has some jobs. But just wanted to give you an update to let you know that at some point, if this comes through and this happens, that we'll have that to look at. We're trying to figure out how we can get you a little more detailed information, but it's not something that we want out in the public right now. So I know that really keeps things cloudy and vague, and I apologize because I really intended to give you more information tonight, but we can't, just from the standpoint that if there's competitive ears listening, there's no sense in laying all our cards on the table until the bets are done. So
It's Shopko, isn't it?
no, this is Shop K. Shop K, they got rid of the O.
I got one quick thing I'll be sending to board members. Obviously, you've noticed I've been throwing out PowerPoints to you guys. It gives you ideas of things that are going up and coming on. We found another thing that was available to our toolbox as a board member, and Act 98-0120. I'm going to toss a quick summary on it. I'll toss you the whole act and everything else that goes with it. And I think you'll be surprised and also elated with the fact that we have this in our tool bag. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Any other?
Move to adjourn.
Motion has been made by Chairman Johnson, seconded by Dave Wiltsey. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.
Have a great